15 years ago, Syracuse men's basketball was in a bit of a different spot than it is right now, but there was one thing that was the same. They hosted LeMoyne early in the season, but for the first time in an exhibition, they lost in a disastrous performance. Syracuse ended up being number 1 in the country at the end of that season, but they lost in the exhibition to the Dolphins. Today, Syracuse opened its 2024-25 season with a 86-82 nail-biting victory over LeMoyne. A lot closer than a lot of people would have hoped, but at the end of the day, the Orange came out on top. Our analysts, Rahill, Jaiswal, and Josh Solomon, will break it all down. Our reporter, Peter Elliott, is live in the Dome. It's Orange Press Pass, and it starts right now. Hello everyone and welcome into our CitrusTV studio for Orange Press Pass. I'm Adam Gotkin alongside Rahill, Jaiswal, and Josh Solomon after a nail-biter in the season opener for Syracuse men's basketball. Rahill, this game was a lot closer than it probably should have been.
Yeah, you can say that again. I think every Orange fan is saying this. Let's all take a breath, because there was a split second there where you thought that LeMoyne was going to come out with the victory, but in the end, Syracuse got it done. But Josh, certainly not the way you want to start the season. Only a 4-point win against a team that just went Division I a couple years ago.
Yeah, Rahill, I mean, you're talking about a 4-point win. The largest margin in this game for Syracuse was just 7 points, and they didn't even tie the contest. LeMoyne was ahead for basically the entire first half. It took until the final 3 minutes where Syracuse finally started to kick into gear. But even after that, in the second half, it took until after the midway point for Syracuse to start to cement that lead. But again, it wasn't even that big of a lead. And at the end of the day, this was a really slow start for the team and a really close game till the end.
Yeah, a very close game to say the least. Let's wait no longer and get you the highlights from the first men's basketball game of the season in the Dome. It was a great crowd, just under 20,000 on hand, and they were very excited to see this Syracuse team early. Eddie Lampkin, the Colorado transfer, turns around, puts it in. Syracuse had no momentum at the beginning of this game. Dwayne Koroma with a monster slam to put the Dolphins up 12-6 just over 5 minutes in. Peter Mastorovich, you haven't heard of him yet, you probably will soon. The freshman from Europe had that bucket, but he was 1 for 6 on the day. We didn't see much of him. We did see a lot of this guy, Donnie Freeman, with a 3 to make it a 1-point SU lead. That was the first lead of the game for the Orange with 7 minutes to go in the first half. But how about this from Fred Paul Bagetskis? He was exceptional in this one with 18 points. We're at halftime after this Jair Davis layup with the Dolphins up 41-36. A disastrous first 20 minutes for the Orange, and Will Amika kept it going for LeMoyne. 48-40, 2 minutes into the second half. Chris Bell going the other way. Syracuse trying to get some momentum, and he lays it in and one to make it a 3-point game. Jair Davis, he was exceptional in this one. 22 points for the Delaware transfer. SU leads by 1. Now under 10 minutes to go. Chris Bell from 3, he does not miss. Struggled a little bit in the first half, really picked things up in the second. This game's still close. Syracuse started to pull away, up by 7 after that Eddie Lampkin jumper, but here, the 3 from LeMoyne to make it a 2-point game with a minute to go. Now 20 seconds to go. A 3 from Fred Paul Bagetskis to make it a 1-point game. Jaquan Carlos is fouled. He misses the first free throw. An 89% shooter does make the second, so LeMoyne gets it back. 20 seconds to go for this possession, but Chris Bell gets in the way, steals it, and the Orange with a absolutely massive turnover forced on that final possession to get the win. 86-82 the final. A close one. Jair Davis, the leading scorer for the Orange, the Delaware transfer, with 22 points and 12 rebounds.
Yeah, Adam, this was a really close game, and overall Syracuse got it done, but overall, if you're looking at the positive, Jair Davis, double-double.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be happy with that double-double for Davis, for LeMoyne. Fred Paul Bagetskis was just incredible with 18 points. Well, let's not wait any longer, because we've got our good friend Peter Elliott live in the JMA Wireless Dome after the home opener for the Orange. And Arguably the most exciting thing for SU fans coming into this game, Peter, was the debut of Donnie Freeman, the highest rated recruit for the Orange since Carmelo Anthony. Everyone says he looks like a unicorn out there on the floor, almost 7 feet tall. He can run up and down. What did you think of him in person in his debut?
Yeah, it was exciting to see a unicorn in person. I've never done that before. But no, I think really he impressed in his first ever game, his first ever real collegiate game. And I think that's all you can ask for from a freshman. Yes, he finished 3 of 12 from shooting. I think something he could clean up is probably his touch. But overall, I think he got a double-double in his first ever collegiate game. I think his rebounding presence was really strong. He was physical. I think the most remarkable thing here, Adam, was how he played with his physicality. He didn't draw a single foul all game. Finished the game with 0 personal fouls. That's pretty remarkable for a guy of his size, of unicorn stature, to not be baited into making silly fouls, especially against a much smaller LeMoyne team. That's something that's really encouraging going forward. If you have a guy like Donnie Freeman, especially down the stretch, not in foul trouble, that's huge for SU. Also, you can't discount the fact that he also hit a 3 earlier in this game. That's something that's pretty nice to count on, that you can have a big man who's pretty versatile down low from beyond the arc too. He can hit a 3-pointer in a low leverage situation. That's another great thing to have from a unicorn.
Hey, Peter, thanks for joining us. Chris Bell really got it going in the second half. How about 16 of his 20 points in the final 20 minutes per se? What did you see from him, and how did he get hot in that second half?
Yeah, Rahill, when you think of Chris Bell, you usually think of him as that 3-point shooter, but I think this speaks to how he's really transitioned his game. Last year, he was called upon to make some huge shots, but this year, he's really becoming a more overall, just a stronger player. He only went 2 for 6 from beyond the arc, but overall, this SU team didn't hit shots really well. 4 for 22, so they were doing things inside, and Chris Bell used his reputation as a 3-point shooter to bait defenders into jumping at him, and he got in the lane, made some better shots. I think also he made the biggest play of the game there, stealing the ball from LeMoyne, making 2 crucial free throws towards the stretch there. That's something he talked about. He practices all the time in the Mello Center, those huge clutch free throws. He made them near the end. After the game, he talked about the intensity his team played with. He said they want to play the same way against LeMoyne as they do against Duke. That certainly showed today. They played the Dolphins with the same energy that they would the Blue Devils.
Hey, Peter, always great to see you, especially tonight in the Dome. I want to ask you about the senior transfer, the forward Jair Davis. The physicality from what we were seeing in the studio was absolutely electric. I want to know from inside the Dome, what did he show to you?
Well, Josh, I mean, I'm glad it translated through the screen because the physicality stood out really, especially from inside the Dome. He was a guy who was going 1-on-2 to grab rebounds tonight. He was SU's leading rebounder, even over Donnie Freeman, and he was their leading scorer. I think it really speaks to how much more depth there is for this SU program, that a guy like Jair Davis can come off the bench and lead the team in both points and rebounds. It's something he talked about before this season at Media Day. He said he didn't expect to be a guy who was going to have to average 17 points a game like he did back at Delaware. Well, he finished with 22 tonight, and he proved his point. This SU team is going to need to rely on its depth throughout this season. Guys like Jair Davis are going to need to step up and have these big games throughout the year. He certainly did that tonight. I think some SU fans might be surprised by how he played tonight. He's kind of been an unheralded guy when so much focus has been on Jaquan Carlos and Eddie Lampkin, but he showed it tonight. One guy who wasn't surprised by how well Jair Davis played tonight was Jaquan Carlos. He was a guy they played against each other in this CAA. Jaquan Carlos at Hofstra, Jair Davis at Delaware. He said it's no shocker that this is a guy who plays extraordinarily physical. He can grab rebounds. He draws double teams. He plays the game the right way. Once opponents, now they're teammates in orange, and clearly making a big impact as transfers.
Don't worry, Peter. We'll continue to talk a lot about Jair Davis and his incredible performance today. But unfortunately, we've got to say goodbye to you now. But we don't have to say goodbye to all of you at home, because when we come back, we're going to talk about the slow start for the Orange, as well as some of the good things that stood out to us in SU season opener. Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. I'm Adam Gotkin alongside Rahill, Jaiswal, and Josh Solomon. After Syracuse's 86-82 win over LeMoyne to start the season, but this was a very rough start for the Orange, trailed at halftime. SU didn't lead in this game until about 13 minutes in. Just not the way you want to start your season.
No, definitely not. And not only when they took their first lead, they finished the first half cold. There was a stretch where they went 1 for 11 to close the half. So overall, Syracuse has got to be a lot better. You can't be having close games against LeMoyne. Overall, this was a really rough game. Missed a lot of free throws, bad from beyond the arc, a lot of silly fouls as well, fouling three-point shooters. Josh, it has got to be better for this Orange team.
Exactly, Rahill. Turnovers, finishing at the rim is another thing. Syracuse out-rebounded LeMoyne in this game 18-5, but I feel like they just weren't able to get those second chance, those put-back shots. They weren't able to get them down until really the end of the second half.
Yeah, we just showed a lot of it right there with just those missed second chances. I mean, how much do you credit to this just being the first game of the season, maybe?
I mean, I understand that there's first game jitters, but there's still no excuse for why this should have been that close of a game. You would have thought that Syracuse would have turned on the gas in the second half, and we just didn't see that, Adam.
The other big thing there, too, of course, is just 10 for 17 from the free throw line. That's not something that's very acceptable. But Adrian Autry had a bit of an explanation after the game for why SU started off so slow, as well as what he told the team at halftime to try and pick things up going into the second half.
I think, they made the game a little bit bigger than what it needed to be, instead of just playing. So I thought that was, so I was just really trying to tell those guys to relax, calm down. Let's keep trying to defend, get some rebounds, and, finish the plays and get up the court and take our shots. Really just trying to, keep giving them some confidence. Again, you could tell they were pressing. Again, we missed so many easy shots around the basket. So again, me just trying to keep their heads up and their confidence up and, trying to, get them to defend.
Some of those newcomers continue to struggle a little bit in the second half, but two guys who really stood up for SU were the two returners, J.J. Starling and Chris Bell. Both scored double figures in that second half, and without them, Syracuse would not have won this game.
Absolutely, Adam. I mean, 14 points tonight, 46% from the field, just doing what he does best, right? I mean, last season it was around the same thing, 13 points per game, 45% from the field. However, the one thing, J.J. Starling turned that on in the second half, 10 points in that second frame to help Syracuse out.
You want to talk about a guy that turned it on in the second half? How about Chris Bell? Only 4 points in the first half, 16 alone in the second, finished with a game-high 20 points. And this is what we saw from Bell last year. He kind of goes through these little bit of cold stretches, then he can turn them on. Remember that game against Louisville where he hit 7 threes in the first half. But overall, he stepped up, and 20 points when he only makes 2 3-pointers, you got to like that if you're Syracuse.
And Rahill, just a little thing though, look at those 3-point attempts, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Not great from both of those guys. Normally better.
Yeah, it definitely is. But those are the two players that I think are really most important to this team, just because in a game like this against LeMoyne, the emotions are running high. Crosstown matchup, there's a lot of away fans in there. And LeMoyne keeps it close early on, but those two guys really showed the leadership that Syracuse didn't have last year, and that helped them a lot in this game.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if they don't go off in the second half, there's a very good chance LeMoyne comes out with this game on top. But overall, again, if you're Syracuse, you have got to be better.
Yeah, you absolutely do have to be a lot better if you're Syracuse, because you can't put yourself in that situation with your down. I mean, did you think that J.J. Starling did enough in the first half, Josh?
I mean, absolutely not. I talked about that 10 of his 14 points were in that first half. J.J. Starling has to do more. We have to see the veteran presence from the guard in order to get things done for Syracuse later on in the season. This is just game one, remember, but I mean, come on, we got to see more from the guard.
Yeah, and those are two of your returning players, so you'd think early on especially they would have been a lot better, but it took them until the second half to get going. Something that never really got going for Syracuse in this game, though, was the three-point shooting. It was an issue last year. That was the thing that SU was looking for in the transfer portal. Some of the guys they brought in, you thought they maybe had a little bit of it. Jair Davis, Jaquan Carlos, Lucas Taylor. All of those guys, we thought they could shoot, but none of them made threes today. The only guys who made threes, Donnie Freeman made one, J.J. Starling made one, and Chris Bell made two.
Yeah, it was bad, to put it lightly. I mean, this was an ugly shooting display. I mean, really a bricklaying contest on both ends of the floor. But overall, it was just really tough to watch. And if Syracuse wants to compete with the higher top ACC teams, they got to shoot the three ball better. Remember, Adam, the one game where they actually beat UNC last year, they shot the lights out of the gym. And now, obviously, that's not going to happen game one. But it's got to be better than this. I mean, this is just 4 for 22 you can get away with against LeMoyne, not against some of the other ACC teams.
Listen, Rahill, I mean, I have nothing really to add to this. 18% from three-point range, it's not going to get you a win. Point blank. Syracuse is lucky to have gotten a win tonight with how badly they shot from beyond the arc. Jair Davis, though, one player I know, Adam, you're going to talk about a little bit later. He was pretty good from that spot.
Yeah, he was. He really helped this team out. The three-point shooting was just awful today. That was really the identity of this team in the Buddy Boeheim era. They had 37% three-point shooting that season, 36 the year after that. It was a little bit worse last year, 16.7 to start off this season. Just did not get it done. But one guy who did get it done today for Syracuse was the Delaware transfer, Jair Davis. He wasn't expected to have the biggest role for this team this season, but he stood up today with a double-double in his Syracuse debut, 22 points and 12 rebounds. Davis stepped up after Eddie Lampkin got into foul trouble early on. He only played in 6 minutes in the first half. Donnie Freeman, he struggled a little bit to find his footing. Davis was there to pick up his young teammate. And because of that, he is our Orange Press Pass player of the game. Well, we're not done yet here on OPP, because when we come back, we're going to break down the rest of the newcomers for this Syracuse team. 5 stars, transfers, we've got it all. Don't go anywhere, because Orange Press Pass rolls on.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. Adam Gotkin, Rahill, Jaiswal, and Josh Solomon with you, breaking down Syracuse's 86-82 win over LeMoyne in the season opener. The start of the season always so fun because we've got a brand new crop of players to watch. A lot of them this year for the Orange. 7 of the 9 players who were a part of the rotation today, new to the squad, and without a doubt the most exciting one, the 5-star Donnie Freeman, the highest rated commit since Carmelo Anthony. He's someone that I was really excited about as someone from the DC area. I had the pleasure to watch him a number of times back in high school. He was okay today. He had a couple of flashes. You could see his athleticism, but he also struggled to shoot at times.
Yeah, 3 of 12. You got to be better. If Syracuse wants to make some serious noise in the ACC, Donnie Freeman has to be a lot better when it comes to shooting the basketball. But I will give him credit. Grabbed 11 boards. So even though he wasn't playing his best brand of basketball when it comes to shooting, he still found ways to be effective. And when you're not shooting the basketball well and you need to contribute in other areas, he got it done with 11 boards.
Yeah, I mean, you can give him credit a little bit here, Rahill, but I mean, we're talking about a guy, the 6th-ranked 2024 prospect according to ESPN, a top 20 draft pick already projected in the 2025 NBA draft. I know it's just game 1, but I was really expecting to see more from Donnie Freeman today, I'm going to be honest.
I like what you said, though, with his rebounds, Rahill, because what you need from these freshmen is even when they aren't playing their best, they can still contribute. Right. And that's something that we got from Donnie Freeman today. His partner in the front court, Eddie Lampkin, also did not have his best game today. Got into foul trouble very early on, picked up 2 in the first few minutes, and only played 6 minutes in that first half. I'll tell you what, after watching the exhibitions, I was really excited to see Eddie Lampkin and what he could do as a facilitator for this offense. Josh, I didn't really see much of him today.
Yeah, seriously, Adam. I mean, that low post score that you really want to see out of a guy like Eddie Lampkin, we weren't able to really get that today, and that was due to that foul trouble in the first half. He only played 19 minutes in this basketball game compared to the other starters who went about 30 to 35, and someone that you want to see out of a starter who's out there from the opening tip. You want to see more minutes. The foul trouble got in the way. I'm sure we'll see more throughout the rest of the season, Rahill.
Yeah, you guys touched on it. The foul trouble is really what, to me, threw him off. First game of the season, you're trying to play your way into rhythm in the opening game. You have 2 fouls in the opening couple minutes and you can't play much of the first half. That probably threw him off, but overall, if I'm Eddie Lampkin, you got to give me more on the boards, man. 3 rebounds, that's got to be more for a guy his size, even in the limited minutes he played tonight.
So, of course, we're comparing these new players to the guys from last year. It was Malik Brown who was the center for Syracuse last season. What did you think of maybe how Eddie played compared to how Malik Brown played last season?
Well, Malik Brown last year balled out. I was a huge fan of Malik Brown because he had to step into a center role that just wasn't familiar with him at all. But to be completely honest, Eddie Lampkin has got to be much better than that if Syracuse is going to make some serious noise in the ACC.
I'll pose this to you, though, Josh.
Yeah.
Does Eddie Lampkin need to get that massive number of rebounds with a guy like Donnie Freeman down low as well?
No, I mean, I don't think so. Another guy we didn't... Well, another guy...
For his size, you can't be grabbing
We
3
didn't even
rebounds.
see Naheem McLeod really tonight. Remember that guy? Hey, remember that guy? He's on our team too. How about that, huh? We have a guy who's over 7 foot on this team. We didn't even see him tonight. I think if you're actually going to use Naheem McLeod, you have other players who can get rebounds for this team. They're going to get the job done. They don't really need Eddie Lampkin to put up those big numbers that Brown did in the previous season.
I'm a bit surprised to hear you mention Naheem McLeod here. I thought we didn't see him play for a reason. Didn't really impress me too much when he played last season, but he's a great guy.
It's a new year, Adam. It's a new year.
It is. He's an older player, so you know what? We expect that he'll improve this season. A lot of older players on this Syracuse team. Jaiswal Carlos, one of the other big additions, the transfer point guard in from Hofstra. The transfer point guard in from Hofstra. Syracuse really needed a point guard because they could not run the offense last year through Judah Mintz. Having a ball-dominant guy as the one who's trying to facilitate doesn't work. Those two things don't match. Jaiswal Carlos played an okay game today. He had 6 assists, but they didn't really run the offense through him, did they, Rahill?
No, not really, but to be completely honest, say everyone had an okay game, if we're being honest. You only beat LeMoyne by 4 points, but overall I think you should still be excited about Jaiswal Carlos, mainly for the fact that, as Adam just touched on, Judah Mintz cannot facilitate the basketball. So I'd much rather have a point guard like Jaiswal Carlos who's only going to take 5, 6 shots a game, but will give you 5, 6, 7 assists because that opened things up for Chris Bell, for a couple more open looks, J.J. Starling, because when the Orange get open looks from 3, I know they didn't fall tonight, they can get hot, and I think Jaiswal Carlos can provide that this season. Just kind of a weird game tonight.
I think also, though, we're talking about a point guard in Jaiswal Carlos and Judah Mintz, which isn't a fair comparison. I feel like one of the guys is way more defensive heavy than the other. Even though Judah Mintz might have been a player that was a facilitator, a guy who ran the offense for Syracuse, I feel like Carlos is going to be more of a guy who spreads the ball. Yes, he's going to be physical. Yes, he's going to, try and get those plays on offense and drive to the rim, as you see right there on your screen. But at the same time, he's more used in the defensive end, and that's where he really shines for Syracuse this season, I would say.
Something else that we saw with Carlos is that he wasn't always the guy running the point today. It was also J.J. Starling a lot who walked the ball up the floor. Do you think that's something that we see throughout this season, is that it's not Carlos as that dominant point guard and they spread it around entirely?
I would prefer to see Jaiswal Carlos dominate the ball more. As much as I am a big fan of J.J. Starling, I don't think it's a better option for him to be bringing the basketball up the court compared to a Jaiswal Carlos.
Josh, do you see maybe Donnie Freeman running as a point forward ever? Eddie Lampkin's a great passer, anything like that? Or do you want to see Carlos really running the point and holding the ball a lot?
I like what you brought up originally with kind of a mix between the both of them because, you know what, let's keep defenses guessing, right? Who's going to really bring the ball up? Who's going to be the facilitator on offense? If it's not Jaiswal Carlos, fine. If it's J.J. Starling, fine. I don't know about the whole, Eddie Lampkin.
Eddie Lampkin is an elite passer. I will say that.
No. Eddie Lampkin is not running the point.
We don't need a big guy like that bringing the ball up past half court.
I'm
not running the point.
I'm not saying Eddie Lampkin needs to run the point, but if you watch the exhibition games, what they did with him with the ball at the top of the key, then passing, Eddie Lampkin's an elite passer. We didn't really see that much from him today. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Lampkin maybe passing a little bit more as we get deeper into the season. Well, it's fun to talk about all of these newcomers. It's a brand new season in college basketball, and there are some fun results here on the opening night. We'll get into all of that and also our next OPP when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Orange Press Pass rolls on after this break.
Welcome to my house. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The walls were closing in. Clearly a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It could help you find a little more breathing room.
Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. Time almost running out here on the opening night of the college basketball season. Let's waste no time and get right into the scores. Adam Gotkin, Rahill, Jaiswal, and Josh Solomon breaking down everything here. What a night to start off the college basketball season. The big one for me that I want to look at as we take a look at some of the scores around the nation is what went down in this Florida-South Florida game. Wow, the Gators come out on top at the end. I know that our new sports director here at CitrusTV, Adam Avon, has to be happy about that one. What stands out to you guys about these scores?
I mean, we got to talk about UCF taking down Texas A&M and storming the court. College basketball is back. Already upsets in the first day of the season. You got to love it. Nothing like college basketball upsets.
College basketball is certainly back, and look at that score between number 19 Texas and Ohio State. We'll have to see how the rest of that second half goes. But Adam, I know you wanted to quickly touch on this Baylor-Gonzaga game later tonight.
That should be a fun one. Getting underway in just about 3 minutes. I know the second we're done with this, I'm going to be turning that on my TV. My Maryland Terrapins with a big win over the Manhattan Jaspers, up by 30 after being very close at halftime. Well, on our next Orange Press Pass, we're talking football. We're in the midst of crossover season. So on Saturday, Syracuse football plays Boston College at noon. Our Orange Press Pass will get underway at 5 p.m. That is the 100th anniversary of one of the biggest rivalries for Syracuse football, and really a must-win game for this SU team after that overtime victory over Virginia Tech last Saturday. Well, let's get back to basketball here. I want to hear your guys' final thoughts after Syracuse's 86-82 win tonight. Rahill, I'll start with you.
Yeah, you heard me talk about this earlier in the show. It's got to be a lot better if Syracuse wants any chance at competing in the ACC. I mean, 4-point victory against LeMoyne. I know you didn't play well, and I understand it's the first game of the season, but if Syracuse wants to make any sort of noise this season and maybe push where they went last year, maybe get to March Madness, 4-point victory against LeMoyne, that's all you're giving me. You got to see a lot more, and I suspect it will be a lot more, but it was a lucky one tonight to get out of that dome with a win.
Yeah, Rahill, I mean, I agree with you, but also you got to take this game as a stepping stone. It's only the first game of the season. Adrian Autry in our preview show here on Citrus TV mentioned he wants to, take it slow. Last season was, he felt it was very rushed. One game at a time. I'm sure he's going to take a lot of time to look over the film for this game because that was something for sure. Syracuse luckily came out with the win, but I would say you still have to see more from your number one freshman and Donnie Freeman, along with some other guys stepping up, some veterans and Chris Bell and JJ Starling doing their thing. But on to the next, one step at a time is what I have.
Here's the thing that I'll say before we end this show. I think my biggest final thought is we have to remember the emotions in college basketball and how much that had to have played a factor into this game. I mean, we always see it in March Madness. If you give a team any ounce of energy, then they'll use that the rest of the way. Momentum is everything in this sport, especially in a game like this. The Dolphins had a chance early on. They kept it close at the beginning because Syracuse was missing its shots. And then they just started making some miraculous shots because, well, that's college basketball. We see it all the time in March Madness. Whenever an underdog feels like it has a chance, that just continues to roll. And at the end of the day for LeMoyne, it was enough to come out not on top, but with a very positive result for a program that's in just its second year at the Division I level. Well, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in to this edition of Orange Press Pass. For our entire production team, my analyst Josh Solomon and Rahill Jaiswal, I'm Adam Gotkin saying so long and have a great night.